There was no thought process of judgment and what would people think. It was, I wanted to fix a problem which I thought was massive and not right and balance the world out, so I was going to do it.
The fear of judgment, the fear of failure is what will stop most people from doing something.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneur world, where you were like, actually I don't care what people think, because you were so driven by purpose and passion to make a difference, you just started before you'd even really thought about how to make it happen.
I'm just fascinated there with the complete parallel with nearly every conversation we've had with somebody across this table of not fitting in, and injustice because of who I am, and not understanding myself. We call this program Beyond the Label for a reason, don't we?
And it's taken 20 years for some people to actually go, hang on a minute, you were right.
Yeah.
You know, and that was 20 years ago when I was like, this is right, the world is changing, this is how it's going to be, this is how it's going to look.
Your glass ceiling is way, way, way stronger, thicker glass that you've broken through than most people have. Yeah, but it was there and you just went for it. That's your neurospicy though, isn't it? You didn't see it, didn't care about it, and went and smashed it.
I always say I never got the memo.
Yeah, well, brilliant.
Wouldn't have read it anyway.
We met about 3 or 4 weeks ago, didn't we, at an entrepreneurs event, and there was a spark with you and your mates when we started. I think I was introduced as the man from ADHD 360.
You got like
swamped. Everybody dived in at that point. What was it where were you at that point when an ADHD came onto the table at an event that was nothing to do with ADHD?
Do you know what? I went the other way because it's like you were swamped and there's so much excitement, and I find there's so many people wanting to not get on the bandwagon, but there's a real kind of wanting a label, wanting something, and actually when you've got a load of midlife women, it's actually, you've got the perimenopause, you've got absolute chaos of your everyday lives and trying to parent and trying to work, and it's really tricky to know, well, it's really, people are very quick to go, well, it must be ADHD. And actually, a lot of the time it's perimenopause, so it's sort of when that happened, I think because I've been diagnosed a while and kind of know and have learned and accepted that, and I don't like sort of, in the same way if someone's, being a bit of an arse in life and people excuse it, I'm like, well, you don't go around in life with a sign above your head saying, I'm an a-hole because this happened to me when I was a child, or I've got this label. It's, so yeah, when you got swamped, I sort of went back and chatted to someone else and just watched you be swamped all day, knowing that actually at some point we'd meet again in calmer surroundings and actually probably have a proper conversation.
But people are looking for answers though, aren't they? People are looking for community, which actually was where we met. We met at an Ideas Fest Entrepreneurial hub, if you like. And so it's interesting because you were diagnosed 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's given you a huge amount of perspective and time to process that. But what I've noticed is there's so many people really trying to understand themselves, trying to work out where they fit, with so many unanswered questions.
Absolutely. And Emma, yourself, you're mixing in that entrepreneur circle as a matter of course, day in, day out, aren't you? We'll talk about some of the crazy things you're doing and what have you. And I think if you are going into an environment where, as we're working through this life together, we're realizing that connectivity between being an entrepreneur and ADHD and being kind of neurospicy. And so we're gonna stimulate conversations. I went to that event to represent my organization, but not to be having conversations about ADHD. And then I spent all day, as you say, with midlife women. I am.
I've never seen you so exhausted. You were supposed to meet me later and you said something along the lines of, I need to go, I'm done. Yeah.
I was spent. It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. The energy. So let's wind that back to you then, if we can, because we didn't get to have a long conversation. This is really our very first conversation, isn't it? And and you've only had brief conversations, haven't you, with her?
Sure.
What is it that makes you ADHD then, do you think?
Gosh, when I look back, it's sort of, since I was tiny, there's that sense, and one thing I know from it is that sense of injustice in the world. And if you see something that you think's wrong, and the world is doing wrong, or it's sort of, you want to fix it. And ever since I was little, it's making a stand. It's sort of, I'd be like, well, that's not right. And when people say, well, that's just how it is. It's like, well, it shouldn't just be like that. I remember age 8 and, boarding school, and you had to be weighed. every week, on a Friday, you went and got weighed. And this is like 7-year-old girls, till 12. And I remember thinking, no, this isn't right. And making my whole class refuse to be weighed. And, that's age 8. And it's sort of, I don't really think about it until I look back at all the things I did as a kid and even now it's sort of, you see someone not being persecuted, but being, like the minorities or, people on the fringe that aren't being looked after, haven't got a voice. It's sort of, well, I've always gone, well, no, I'm going to give them the voice because I've got a really loud one and I don't care what people think. And, Marmite and whatever you want to call it. It has always been I just don't think about the consequences really, or what people, when I launched my business, we'll probably talk about that in a bit, 20 years ago, it was sort of, there was no thought process of judgment and what would people think. It was, I wanted to fix a problem which I thought was massive and not right and balance the world out, so I was going to do it.
Do you know what's so interesting about that? Is the fear of judgment, the fear of failure is what will stop most people from doing something.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneur world where you were like, actually, I don't care what people think, because you were so driven by purpose and passion to make a difference, you just started before you'd even really thought about how to make it happen.
I think there's some important words to play with there. That when you say, I don't care what people think, I think you do care what people think, but in the moment, you don't stop and check yourself to care what people think.
Yeah.
Because what we find, if you think about the conversations we've had with the amazing people we've had on this show so far, care about others and care about themselves, but don't always stop, check, pause to actually make sure they're getting that right. So I was going to ask you a question there about, there's clearly a defined impulsivity within you, but it's been successful for you, hasn't it? Has your impulsivity ever not been successful for you?
I think it's affected friendships. I think it's affected when I've just done things, because then it's sort of that you go so fast into it that it takes a while to look back and go, oh, that maybe wasn't, I didn't really take people's feelings into consideration. I was like so focused. And a lot of the time you're like so far down the track that and it can be years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think on that level, I've been fortunate. I think it also comes with it is really intelligent. So actually when I am making impulsive decisions, then my brain has worked so fast to actually weigh up the risks and like the opposable mind and on different train tracks, that by the time you've done it, which happens really quickly, your brain is like some supercomputer has analysed all the risks and all the different outcomes and all the different options and gone, well, we're doing it because it's going to be fine. So it's sort of, might appear to other people like, wow, this is risky, but I've kind of gone, no, in my head, I've analysed all the risks and things, like now, as I said, sort of our business is 20 years and it's taken 20 years for some people to actually go, hang on a minute, you were right.
Yeah.
And that was 20 years ago when I was like, this is right, the world is changing, this is how it's going to be, this is how it's going to look, and so it kind of...
A calculated risk. So that question you asked is about risk, and I think there are countless people that pile into something and haven't potentially given it a lot of thought and then could get themselves into trouble. You'll have seen that in the days of police, right? That same risk attitude that could just be like actually completely wrong, not thought out. It shows that hyperfocus, that you've meshed that, the entrepreneurial side of things, you've meshed the hyperfocus, so you're just spinning all the time and assessing, but on the job.
And something that you're passionate and motivated about, and sometimes about an injustice, to use your words. So there's a motivation within you that comes from the... Let's talk about your business. 20 years in, what's it called?
So that business talking about is Killing Kittens.
Okay, and what's that all about then?
So it was, 2005 was what was I, 25? And I'd come out of university, and at university I'd always, and even as a kid, it was like, well, if boys are doing it, why can't I do it? And I was a real little tomboy. If they're climbing trees, why can't I climb trees? If they're playing sport, why can't I play sport? We were talking earlier, I played the trombone. If they're playing it, I want to play it. And it's sort of, then you go into university in the dating world, and it's like, hang on a minute, men are like, the boys are just sleeping around doing what they want sexually, and there's no judgment, and they're still, rugby legends, and, they can do what they want. But God forbid a girl has a one-night stand, or does, or does something on a night out. It's like the slut shame. They're not girlfriend. The amount of times I heard they're not girlfriend material, and it'd be like, why? Oh, because they've slept with lots of boys. It's sort of, it's not there. And that imbalance, and coming into work, the dating world and early 20s, and it really annoyed me, and it made me really angry. And I thought, well, why are we being slut shamed? And I think the guilt in me and the shame in me. So you'd go out and I wouldn't do anything, because I'd be like, well, what will people think? And I must be a slut, and it's dirty, and there's something wrong with me. And so, when I launched Killing Kittens, it was sort of in no sleep in Ibiza for 3 nights at a crazy wedding, very hedonistic wedding with a big group in London who was sort of been in the media about, and the women were very powerful, and the swinging and the swapping and the openness. And I was watching these women and thinking, a decade older than me, that they were the most amazing things I've ever seen. And I just went, right, that's it. I want to flip the norm on its head and create a community and events where the women were in control, and there was no shame, there was no judgment, and they could do what they wanted sexually, and they made the first move. And it was sort of, when I look back, it's like creating an avatar, my avatar, that I wish and a world I lived in, where there wasn't any of that shame. And as a single girl, I could go, right, do you know what? Who cares if I go and have a one night stand? And it's going to be fun. And it's sort of, and it should be. And it's like that messaging we get as women is so in our bones that it's wrong. And, and it's shameful that that was why, and actually calling it Killing Kittens, someone phoned in who didn't make the wedding and said, are you guys just all sat around killing kittens at the moment, which is slang for every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. So that's where the name came from. And I like the 2 Ks. And it's sort of, again, it's that decision of that's it. And to me, it was sort of K's a really powerful letter. And it was just a strong, crazy name that, we couldn't have a bank account in that name for 10 years because of cruelty to animals. So for the first decade, it was Aphrodite Associates Limited before a bank would let us call it Killing Kittens Limited. So
proper disruption there, but actually you instantly created a community of people that were crying out for information and connection with people that felt like that, right? Because that was validation for you setting that business up.
Yeah, and that was it. It was like going, well, hang on a minute. If this is the world we live in, saying we can't and you shouldn't, then I'm going to create a safe space in a world where women, can come and explore and just chat. And, it's had the Daily Mail headlines and sex parties and all of that. But actually, ultimately, to me, that sex has been the byproduct of what it was. From day one, it was like creating this space, giving women control, making them feel empowered, feeling safe. And if that made them feel comfortable enough to then their sex, then so be it. So it's all, even now, everything about the business is, we look at all the details of it and everything we launch. And, the sex bit is a given. It's kind of the byproduct that it's there. So
can't help but draw parallels there. I was listening to every word you said resonated with. You could have taken Killing Kittens out, women's emancipation of sexual freedom, having a voice, having choice, not being put down, fitting into a new tribe. You could take the sex out of it and put ADHD into it, and you've got and I'm just fascinated there with the complete parallel with nearly every conversation we've had with somebody across this table of not fitting in, and injustice because of who I am, and in not understanding myself, finding an opportunity to understand myself through we call this program Beyond the Label for a reason, don't we? And I'm fascinated by those parallels behind what you did and who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
You talked about your injustice, stepping forward when there's an injustice. There's a big injustice on, as you explained it very eloquently, how women are treated for their sexual life, their approach to sex. And the parallel with your ADHD is incredible, I think. And I'd never spoke to an entrepreneur and seen that mirrored image so clearly between what you Entrepreneurial undertook and how you feel. Now, is that how you feel about yourself?
Yeah, and that's it. I think it's like, and also, people will say like having a diagnosis, it doesn't mean anything because they're not, unless you go on the treatment, meds, but actually what it does and what it did to me, it just made everything very clear as to the reasonings. And I look back and can see really clearly why I did it and why I did loads of things in my childhood and how I behaved. And unbehaved with friends. Because again, you can kind of, if someone does something wrong and you feel wronged, it's sort of that you take it really personally. So that, when you say, I don't care, it's sort of, on that, I've developed this kind of, I don't care what the majority, I've got a very close group of friends and family. So everything else, that is that bubble. But if you feel, wronged and it gets into that, invisible sphere, then you take things really, really personally.
We label rejection quite well in the neurospicy world. I think, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, to give it a name. And we all feel that we can all have rejection, but I do think that because of the lack of understanding of self through all those teenage years up until 30, 31?
Yeah, 31.
It's very impactful to be rejected, isn't it? It's very hurtful, and it has a superior effect on your being, and you do build a bigger mask and what have you. So I think, going back to it, when you said, I don't care what people think, you massively do when it's about you and your inner self, I would put to you. But what people with ADHD are very prepared to do is tackle an injustice. And instead of sitting around and pontificating about it and hypothesizing what could we do, what we find is in the entrepreneurial world is, sod it, I'm just going to get on and do this.
Which could actually be the detriment of yourself, which is what you said, right? So actually
Absolutely.
You could be
That's the point.
working crazy long hours.
Yeah.
You could be neglecting your diet, your sleep,
your family.
And that's a key thing we're talking about. Even your journey here this morning, the whole, it's the people that interact. You've got your close community, and then you've got your family. You've got three kids.
Yeah.
There's a whole dynamic there that, how do you kind of almost balance the really super hyper-focused, driven entrepreneur, but also making sure that you're sort of managing that at home, right?
I think that also we're talking about the kids, and that really highlights as well, it's me, a magnifying glass, because you can't, when do you regulate? When do you self-regulate? I've got so used to the crazy world outside, but whenever I was on my own, lived on my own in London 20s, it was my sanctuary, it was silent, worked at home, it was chilled, there wasn't parties there, and then you go, but suddenly when you have the crazy kids, we were talking this morning, and all three of my kids, 100% are neurospicy and in different ways, and husband is as well in a different way to me, and we call it like a house mixed with like sloths and like 1,000 miles per hour like Tasmanian devils. It's sort of, if you mashed up our household, and it's sort of, this morning I was like, kind of going, Mummy's got to get ready. You've got to get, three of you, could you just help me out here? And you've got some of them that are like, and husband who are like, woo, on the sloth side of things. And then you got, the little one who just starts singing really loudly. The older one who just starts going, and making really loud noises. And it was just, and then it was sort of, I was taking my husband's car because my car's the one with all the children's rubbish and stuff in. I said, I'll just take your car and park it at the station. And at 8:25, and we have to be out the door at 8:30, he couldn't find his car key. So he's, I'll give you a lift to the station, or I'm going to be late. So I was like, couldn't Mummy just for once in her life? Everything's about you lot the whole time, and could just something be about me this morning? So it was just that, if you'd had hidden cameras in our household this morning.
So how's that? What you are a mum of three, a wife, a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. When does that get too much, and how does that manifest for you?
I think this year, I think it is getting too much. And I think we've had a brief one day. It's like, is it time? I've already been really anti-meds, but is it time that actually, I look at going on it just to help, because I've got to be there for three neurospicy kids who are getting older now, so it's getting more, and the way they have to get treated, and they're really really good sports kids, and like straight A's, they're very similar to them, being able to mask and stuff, but the same way it's sort of, and then going through perimenopause at the same time. So that I've seen, and gone down obviously that rabbit hole of, which is what we do, consuming every bit of information possible, of how that then enhances ADHD symptoms when you've got the normal brain fog of being 47, and the I call it the black toad of paranoia, of like everyone's out to get you and someone's going to steal my business, and which you never have before, and suddenly that's coming into it on the hormonal side of things. So it's sort of, I don't think there's any amount of HRT that can sort that out.
What does your brain fog look like then?
Oh, I mean, it can absolute freeze. I can just be standing there and people are like, you're right. Dad, what are you thinking about? I'm like, nothing. It's literally nothing. Or I find myself sat in the kitchen, and I sent you a message yesterday. I was like, yesterday it was freeze, and I had. Well, what helps me is I've got an A4, I call it old school, the vintage diary, and the to-do lists go on because I like crossing things out, and it helps me stay. And I had that open, had the views, and I was like, I was trying so hard, and then I sent him a picture. I had just done my 10-year-old's maths homework because that was on the table in front of me, and I was just suddenly went, what am I doing?
In the list of priorities. Yeah, this really resonates with me.
Yeah,
and obviously I'm learning this fast, but yeah, that really tickled me because we were messaging about different things to do today, and she actually said, "I'm having a whole brain freeze moment. I'm not going to get to certain things," and then literally 20 minutes later, I get this picture,
and I just literally completed.
And I do that, so I get that
homework.
One thing I'd say is if you look at that, and the more I'm learning from all these conversations and from Phil is it could be 6, 7, 10 times harder to do stuff that other people clearly don't struggle with. So it's a challenge. And yet you take on more challenges. You have a business, is it sisterhood?
The sisterhood, yeah.
Where you go off and do challenges. When we both met you just come back from a rickshaw challenge. So my question to you is almost like when business is challenging enough and just listening to your chaos household, then you set more challenges, which means herding people. Got to get the right people for that. Is it because it's just so rewarding when you do it, and is it also a personal thing to you?
It's a personal thing, and I think that's where I have to be careful. Is that my brain goes off so quickly of, I could launch that, and that's a business idea, and that's a business idea, or talking to people and they're like, on Saturday someone was like stuck in the system, where, and it doesn't feel like anything's changing. I'm not going to say too much because I'll land a minute, and so I suggested, it's at 10 o'clock at night, well, why don't you come out of that and fix the problem and set up what's not out there? And so that's a really good idea. And I was like, well, if you want to brainstorm, and then after I'm thinking, what, again? And it kind of...
You've now immersed yourself in that.
So I'm having to go, right, actually, the KK group, which has Killing Kittens and other bits in, is like really important. But what's amazing is, and again, I think you do it without thinking, is building up a team that handle all that detail. I've got an amazing business partner now, and he manages it all and handles the detail that I'm rubbish at, which lets me be the big picture overview.
That's a skill, though. That's the skill to find the people.
And then the challenges,
and hanging on to them.
Yeah, that side. I've always, for 18 years, I've always loved sport, but liking that, I need a new challenge and another adventure. And I think, and I went a bit mad, lockdown, those 2 years, I think that didn't help the black toad because you couldn't really travel So I had like 3 years of not having an adventure. And even my husband was like, you need a trip. You need...
You need a focus, you need a challenge.
Because otherwise, and I know it, I think when you have that brain that is, you can get yourself in trouble really easy. And you can go down routes for the dopamine hits that are not good routes. And sometimes I can feel myself going,
No, I get it.
No, I'm not going to.
I'm surrounded by people like Jordan Wiley and people it's a thing, right? It's like life's difficult enough, but actually a challenge is super personal. It gives a focus.
It is super personal, and I think one of the things that John keeps on saying, he's learning every time. We're all learning every day, and the more I have in-depth conversations with people who are neurospicy, the more I recognise that the manual of ADHD is chuck it away, because it does the job medically, but it actually doesn't get under the skin of life. And when we teach ADHD in the academy, that we teach about getting under the skin and what is it really like. It's not impulsivity, hyperactivity, or inattention that trips you up. It's taking on too much. It's doing too much. It's having too much to do. It's not having somebody running behind you. You've got these movies of leaders and entrepreneurs, and behind them are 3 people, one with a clipboard, one with a diary, one with the phone. Unless you create that for yourself, you're still trying to do all of that yourself, aren't you? And an ADHD person needs the 3 people behind them.
Yeah, and I think a lot don't. I think maybe that it's sort of, for somehow, I think, again, it's because you kind of do it, yourself. Yeah. You do it yourself. You're kind of like that computer, and you're generating, you throw out what's going to help you. And I think being at boarding school for 10 years, I got in and actually, without really thinking, from the age of 7, ways of, I had a tree I used to go and sit. I wrote, and there's my tree on my own, hidden in the woods, for absolute peace. I would always be grateful, and whether, believe in God, or I always say it doesn't matter what the God is. You're in a dangerous place if you think you are God, if you don't believe in something bigger. So I'd always talk to whoever that was, and be grateful. And and I wrote a diary from the age of, my diaries are massive. A4, my teenage years diaries are hilarious. They're a page a day and they're full of angst. But you read stuff now, it's like journaling. You write your diary. You know what I mean? It's like that, and being grateful. And
do you still journal now?
I do. I try, not as much as I should. So in my head, I'm like, actually, that's going to help. I've got the A4 diary, and every so often I'll write a couple of paragraphs and dump it. So.
Did it help you as a teenager?
So really, I think doing all these things and all the sport I did outside, I think without really thinking, I found a way, and I was organising everyone around me. I've always been the one sort of kind of bringing everyone together and organising the social things.
You're a natural leader, actually.
So it's
very
sort
clear.
of, I think you do, that's the thing, I've kind of without really thinking about it, given myself the tools to manage it.
So let's look beyond that for a second. Yeah. Where's your chaos?
My chaos is my brain is my chaos.
Okay.
That's what
it's
getting too much now, because it's very hard when you have three other people's chaos to take on.
Yes.
That it becomes very hard.
You can't be chaotic at the moment, can you?
Yeah, I can't regulate myself when I've got their chaos to deal with. And so that's now when I'm like, right, actually, maybe it's time, finally, age 47, for a bit, whoever knows how long, to take something that will just
dampen it down
and just regulate me so that I can be the best parent, whilst at the same time not destroying myself in the process.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because here we are talking about entrepreneurial skills, vitality, a bit of impulsivity, drive, passion, go and get it done. Being a parent, hell, I need structure. I need to structure their life. I need to structure my life, a husband's life. Find the car keys when you've only got 3 minutes till the train goes, type of thing. And that dichotomy, that tension between those two is what you're feeling at the moment, isn't it? And I think when I look at you and listen to you, I see all of this, and you've morphed that, molded it, modeled it really, really well. There's no doubt about that. And what you've done is you've built a life where what some people in a manual would say are deficits, you've built them into huge advantages for you. But now you're recognising, hello, that's not all there is to my life.
And that doesn't fit with that.
And that doesn't fit. and when as we talk about entrepreneurs, we haven't had many mums of three across this camera set, have we? And I think what you're bringing to the table here, which I don't think I expected, I don't know if you did, is that juxtaposition between being out there driving. The rickshaw challenge, when I first heard about that from Fran, I thought, that's madness. That is absolute madness. And yet I watched it on social media as you were out there, and I saw you all, a couple of weeks ago, and you were all, I thought that must have been amazing. But there's 3 kids and a husband at home, never mind the KK group and all of that kind of stuff. And yet before, when we were chatting, you're saying, that whole rickshaw business, we're thinking about making that into a business venture now. And so there you are, accepting you've got this challenge, wanting to build this more and doing more with this. And you're going to have to, at some stage, you're going to have to take stock of that, aren't you?
Yeah. And the thing with that one, I think, because that thing, as I said, the sisterhood stuff and organising these challenges and taking people on these races, I've done for 18 years. And to me, it doesn't, and people go, how do you all do all of it and juggle it all? It doesn't stress me out.
No.
And that's the thing. That comes so naturally to me that I don't see it as work. I don't see it as hard. It's I live and breathe it, and it's like, I'm organising. I mean, that one was particularly hard. And I think if you saw the social media videos of each day, I think it's day 6 where you see me, the finish line, in tears at the end, because what hit me with that is I've always done all these races and taken people, and you don't have to worry about anyone because they're safe, and a lot of the 1 days or 2 days, and it just hit me on day 2 that I had 54 women in a really dangerous country where less than 2% of the women driving our own rickshaws from one side of India to the other, and these women were mums and some were grandparents, and I was responsible for them. And I think that's why I'm so used to you know, I'm the only one affected, and then that's where it's like, I don't care. But when suddenly it's like, hang on a minute, you do care, because that's
and the risk assessment
for and that bit I hadn't, the emotional side of that. I mean, I don't really cry unless it's, you know, other people and music. So the other day, music just sets me off, and that was like that enormous. It was so overwhelming when that hit me. Yeah, like a ton of bricks.
But I know a lot of the people that went on that, and they all loved it. There was a huge amount of bonding. There was what you're trying to achieve, that community, and I guess self-development as well. Back to that environment where we met in Ideas Fest, how many other entrepreneurs do you think are neurospicy?
Oh, a lot. I mean, judging from most I've met, and actually I think, you know, I know a lot of women, I know a lot of male ones, but a lot of female ones. And obviously, you know, you've got the added thing with females of you're fighting that, well, should you be at home? You know, it's kind of that, again, that breaking the glass ceiling and taboos, and as a female. So I think when you've got the added bits of, you know, smashing through, you're then, you know, the female entrepreneurs that come through have got so many layers that they've smashed through to get to where they are. You've got a real certain type.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to how mobbed you were, because I was there for part of it, and it was very clear. And you gravitate, and you kind of pull towards almost like a tribal element, and you start seeing behaviours reflected. And I do that, and you know, how do I find out more, sort of thing. And that's what I really felt was happening in the environment where we were when we first met, which is why I've been so looking forward to this, because it's that whole resonating, it's that whole sharing lived experience that other people go, oh, I'm like that, and so on. And I think there are key character traits as an entrepreneur, like even that rickshaw challenge. I want to do this, it's going to be great, a bit exciting, but as you go through it, the risk assessment's happening.
Oh my
God, this is actually quite dangerous.
But it's not being planned before, and it's happening live in the moment.
We're planning with people, me in detail, even people coming on that trip. We're like, well, it's a standing thing that if anyone asks you to do something, you just do it, and they trust. But what I love, they trust me, and that's you know, crazy when you barely met some of these people. Like, oh, you said right, it's going to be fine, you're doing it, so they didn't even question it, and then suddenly you're out there, and that's when we always say it's a standing joke. In 18 years, everyone gets out to, you know, who's found the bosses to the Amazon raft race, or it's not until you get out there that you stand there and go, oh crap.
This is the only way they happen, right? If we were 3 directors of a corporate bank right now, or some, you know, multi-thousand staff business,
nothing would happen.
You'd be turning around and going, this isn't happening. What, rickshaws?
Absolutely.
And the insurance person is going to turn around and say, no, you know, there's just a whole load of reasons why. It's actually back to entrepreneurship, back to what joins us all up in different ways. But the key kind of common denominator is, I want to do this. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to make it happen.
There's no handbrake
happening. No,
there's no handbrake. So what's next?
Which on the adventure thing, we're doing 2 more rickshaw rallies next year, and the women only one, but also like a mixed entrepreneur one towards the end of next year. And that's what we want to do, is actually do some more trips where it is mixed entrepreneurs, because I think that, again, a bit like, you know, Killing Kittens, everything I do, it's sort of, I know how much it's affected me and helped me. And, you know, and I would say with the sisterhood stuff, it's like, I know, and I said at the beginning that we founded like a talk at the beginning, and I said, you know, you might see it as a challenge, but actually to me, it's what it will change in you, which you then go out into the rest of your life, and the confidence and that risk taking, and that you can do anything, and that empowerment, that it's not about the race, it's about the much bigger picture in it. And I think so, and that's always helped me massively without really thinking about it. So to me, it's like, if we can do that for loads of entrepreneurs or people starting out their journey, and give them that, it might just look on paper that it's a race or it's an event, but what you don't realize is the ripple effects of how that will affect your business life and going out.
I think as you go through that, and the next challenges, I'd like to stay closer to it, to just capture some of that, of what goes on for other people, because I think the adventure isn't an adventure without change, is it? And capture that change would be amazing, especially in the neurospicy people, which you're surrounded by, you know, no doubt about that.
You are now as well, by the way. Most of those people that we're probably people that came up to you at the event we met.
There's a kind of inevitability to that, self-licking lollipop, isn't it? What I want from you to wind out of this fantastic time together here is, incredible entrepreneur. You've broken. You talk about glass ceilings. You've demolished barriers.
Disruptor.
You really, yeah. And that's an easy word, but it actually, to take on the view of women and sex all those years ago, to emancipate views and give that voice. That's incredible. You're now recognizing that as a mum of 3 and as a wife, you've got a different set of responsibilities now where the impulsivity perhaps doesn't sit as well. What do you want out of the next 2 or 3 years for you as an individual who's successful, an entrepreneur, a mum successful, wife successful, and neurospicy? What do you want out of the next period that will make you smile when you look back?
I think it's that balance, and I think one thing I've got a lot better at, and hypnotherapy helped. I think hypnotherapy when you're neurospicy is really good. I mean, we're not very good at sitting there, talking therapies. I don't want to talk about stuff. It's like that. So I've always done hypnotherapy. I've had it on boundaries. I think that's another thing. We're not good at. We want to help everyone. We want to, you just give and you overshare and you. So I think that I've got a lot better at saying no. Uh-huh. And I can't make it into town. I'm not coming into town just for one meeting. I'm not. So I think it's that calmness in the next 2-3 years. I've got an amazing work team and, I let them crack on with it. There's no trying to interfere. So it's sort of, I think to me, it's like the next 2-3 years is sort of the business side is going 3,000 miles per hour because there is that gearing up to exit. And then that's the plan. So to see the bigger picture in that and help get that going without getting caught up in the nitty gritty, stressy day-to-day stuff. And at the same time, with get the kids on track, they're 6, 8 and 10, to kind of go into teenage years with tools and, so I can help them on that and manage them. And they don't, we haven't had big conversations with them, labeling them anything. As I said, they all do stupid amounts of sport. And it's sort of getting them in a lifestyle and habits that I know is going to help them out. So it's sort of, I think to me in the next 2-3 years, it's just getting that balance right.
What would you say to any mum that's watching this? Because we'll have entrepreneurs watching it. We'll have people who are just interested because of the subject matter. But we'll pick up along the way some mums who have not yet had their journey articulated for them. And you might be inspiring people. What would you say to anybody who's sat there thinking about themselves at this point?
I'd say, and it's something Simon Sinek, we were talking earlier, like I love him, said about it takes 8 minutes to snap out, to an 8 minutes talking to someone to get rid of the black toad, to get rid of, to feel all right. And I put it in the sister group quite a lot, just saying, if anyone just drops in, has anyone got 8 minutes? There'll be, over 10 people that even if you've never met them will pick up the phone. And I think I would say be better at that and asking and just phoning. That I was awful at it, and I'd do everything myself and process everything myself. And I this year have just gone, and I've been driving back from school, and it's been such an awful school run, and James is away in the States, and they were so disgusting to me, the kids, and the learning bottom minutes going. So, and normally I'd just deal with that myself, and I've just phoned a friend, and I'm like, don't want to, I don't want to fix anything, but and I say it to the kids, I'm like, get it out, because it's when it's in, if, kids say their stomach hurts a lot of the time if there's stuff going on. I'm like, if you get it out of your head, out of your stomach, it can't hurt you
Do you have
anymore.
Do you actually have someone that you've almost prepped them that you are my therapy? Do you know what?
I've got lots now, and a lot of them are some of the women you've met, the entrepreneurs, and I've found that in the last 2 years actually, because part of the problem of not being able to do it is because I think, well, who's going to understand me? Because a lot of school mums who I love, but you operate on different frequencies, and there's nothing, no one's better than anyone, but in my well, they won't understand it, so they won't get it, and they're lovely, but it's that kind of, well, when you find the people that will understand it, and you just need to rant. I don't want anyone to fix it, but as soon as I say to my kids, when it is out of me, I'm like, it's still there.
That's super valuable.
But it's out.
Yeah, it's
super.
So find people.
Do those same friends, you talk about that close-knit community, do they have you as an outlet to call you. So if you see them calling, it could well be a rant on the other.
Yeah, or they'll leave me a voice note, and I've got nothing better, and it sounds silly, and then I'll kind of go out my way to be on my own to just call them, and they're like, "Oh no, we're fine now, but it just needed that."
You know, to wind us out of this time, sadly, the clock's moved on. We've got Entrepreneur, and I can see and feel there's another entrepreneur waiting to come through there, isn't there? You talk about a possible exit one day from this, but there'll always be an entrepreneur. You're a mum, and you've got 3 incredible children. You've got those challenges of your fog and your brain freeze and what have you. And I think in your own vulnerabilities, I think you've articulated why a woman, in particular a woman, should come forward and have her tribe and move things forward. Do you have, in a kind of one word thing, what are you most proud of out of all of that?
Balance.
Okay.
That's the first word that comes, getting the balance.
Yeah. And that's now proving tricky. So we might be able to seek some additional support for that balance, but you've got some great coping mechanisms. I think you're amazing. And your glass ceiling is way, way, way stronger, thicker glass that you've broken through than most people have. Yeah, but it was there and you just went for it. That's your neurospicy though, isn't it? You didn't see it, didn't care about it, and went to smash it.
I always say, I never got the memo.
Yeah, well, brilliant.
Wouldn't have read it anyway.